Welcome everyone. This is Nichelle Anderson. I'm your host for my podcast show, Nichelle Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Today, I had planned to provide the replay of another live podcast show that I did last month. Last month was the first time I did like a live podcast show. The two podcast shows that I did was one talking about the importance of literacy. So I had some guest speakers. It was a group panel. And then I also had another live podcast show talking about relationships. Now that one, for some reason, I wanted to do the replay, but I'm not able to have access to the audio. We didn't get that part of it recorded for some reason, but it's okay. And the part that did, it was just pretty much pre-show. So if you were unable to log on to actually experience it live, unfortunately, I'm not able to replay it. But don't worry, I make sure that I bring back and you can be able to, pick up on the wisdom that they provided. So at any rate, we're going to touch on that, the whole game plan of my deciding to do live shows for my podcast shows and to bring in guests. And I'm focusing on relationships as the theme that I will have rolled out. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But at any rate, I like to always start my show by being thankful and appreciative of the blessing that was bestowed upon me to be able to use it towards the greater good. So I just want to say that before we get started. And let's get into this. All right. So I just want to kind of make this a free form type of discussion for my podcast that I'm releasing today. Like I said, I wanted to be able to provide the replay of that particular live podcast show, but nonetheless, for those that were able to tune in for a while for the whole show, it was very entertaining. It was very informative, inspiring, and I'm definitely going to leave the description to the link to the Dixon's So I'm definitely going to leave a direct link to the Dixon's contact information. They are business owners, so they own the Easy Shops Online. Send a direct message to them on Instagram. They're very active on Instagram as well as Facebook. And at any rate, I'm going to go through some of the things that we talked about for those that missed the show. It was very informative. It was very inspiring. And I really want, people to be able to grasp that. We all need encouragement and all need motivation to be able to learn the journey that we're here for and for others, right? So, and I wanted to talk about the reason why I decided I need to have do a live show, and I needed talk about relationships, because that's what really, to me, humanity is about. Forming relationships, learning from it, and not being stuck in it, and looking at it from at a different perspective to get to that whole. And I think that's what marriage is. So at any rate, it was wonderful to have the first kickoff of this theme that I'm going to do. I'm still going to do short stories, but I'm thinking of having a quarterly type focus about relationships. This podcast, particularly the one about my short stories based on my book, is about relationships. It's about family. It's about choices. My other podcast show, Surviving Your Journey Towards Success, definitely deals with relationships because it deals with us surviving the trauma and the pain of that journey and living through it. So all in one, when I do go live, it's basically going to be honing on both my podcast shows, and I've decided to start it quarterly. So we started in February. So I'm thinking I am going into summer. I definitely release the schedule that I'm going to do when I'm going to do it again, where I'm on summer break, or I might just officially kick it off in September and start that quarterly. Nonetheless, you know me, I roll it out. But let's go ahead and get into this. I don't want to make this long, but at any rate, let's start at the beginning. So I decided to go ahead and do a central theme of talking to guests. So I'm going to get on that late. I'm going to talk on that later in this podcast, but bringing in guests to talk about their journey. So we had the Dixons over last month, and they talked about the journey towards their marriage, the journey, how they shared, and communication came up a lot during our live interview and learning from each other and understanding one another. So I wanted to talk about relationships, not just for married couples, because technically that's hindsight. I'm not married. I was married. I was divorced, and I'm being open and sharing with that because that's what it is when you want to seek healing and understanding and to move forward, because that's what to me nature is, and that's how we learn from nature, is how to be a better observer and a better observer, not of other things but of yourself. But anyway, so I also want to invite couples or singles, people that have been divorced. It's a circle, but the overall objective is why I hold on to my podcast show, Surviving Your Journey to Success, is learning from that, seeing other examples of success and feeling empowered by it and moving forward. So the Dixons came over to share their journey and their success, and I want to bring in couples as well as people that's dating. So if you're interested, I'll leave that information not only in the description, but we'll talk about it later on. But let's go ahead and move forward. So it's going to be quarterly. I say I'll roll out my schedule on that, and why I did kind of hone on that, but why I want to go more in detail, why I'm doing this is outside the regular topics that I do on my Surviving Your Journey to Success. It's about business, working in the corporate America, or working for, yourself or what have you, and dealing with teams and how you can come with that, as well as personal journeys and the struggles and the scars and your successes from that. And then of course on my Nichelle Anderson Short Stories and Beyond, it's about the stories, most of Egypt, that stand for my book. But I think overall, just to hone on that of why I want to do a live podcast show on the theme of relationships again, and to incorporate that is, I think once we talk about things, we talk about the pain, we talk about also the joyfulness and the happiness, and that is healing. And for me, I like to be on a path of healing because you grow and you understand and you have a happier life. So that's what I like to do. Who, as I mentioned before, I'm going to hone on that. Who I'm referring to will be a part of this. Of course, I'm the host, so I would be a part of that. But as well, I'm inviting, other people to come in and talk about, so I can interview or just have an open discussion, like we're drinking tea or coffee or having a glass of wine, and it's all singles and we're talking about it, or it's all married people and I'm there like, okay, share your wisdom, share your journey. I just wanted to have an open communication type way that we're don't have our shields on. We just being open with it. You know what I think is best, and what we can have to really think about and enjoy, is the old times when we had good conversations sitting on the porch drinking some lemonade during summertime, and we're just laughing, and you have your friends and and your cousins or what have you, and we just talk about different things or a particular subject, and it's just like sharing that your experience with someone else and listening to someone else and laughing about what they did or what they thought they did. So that's what I want. And the relationship was based on initially, finding that person and understanding that that's the one, or maybe thinking that's the one. So that's who I'm going to bring in as different aspect, a different perspective to interview when I do those live shows. All right. When I did mention that earlier, but just to tap on it one more time, I think the soonest might be this summer. Who knows? I might do a quick, live podcast show talking about relationships, and then bring in the guests and talk about that theme. I am going to have like a theme question. The theme question that we had when the Dixons had opened the first show for this particular theme was, does true love matter? To look for that. Does it matter? They definitely answered yes. And so I have like another question theme. And that's the theme that the guests will have to answer when we're doing a live podcast show, with the theme relationships, and that's what the people that are, logging on, which is going to be on Podbean again, of their thoughts of that question, that they can, type in the chat or what have you, or call in and answer the question and so forth. All right. So I put here how you can be able to be a part of this. So you can email me. You can email me either through info@MOLIAE.com, which is tied to my short story podcast, or you can email me, Nichelle Anderson, info@NichelleAnderson.com. And I could put you on the roster and send you the link to where you can fill out the guest speaker form, and we'll set a date and we'll do it live. Okay. Another thing to kind of hold on, my goal is to really do live shows, something different. Heck, I've been doing this for 4 years, podcasting, and I love it, but it's something different. And of course, to do the replay. And in this case, I didn't get a chance to do the replay for the live show that the Dixons was a part of, but don't worry, we're gonna, the enemy is a liar. We're gonna do it again, the live show in the future. So stay tuned for that when they return back. And I have here my notes of, just about, the replay that I plan on doing. Once we do the live shows, I will have a replay, but I do encourage you to come out when I do make that announcement when the next one's going to be. It is fun. Just with technology. So I do encourage that, to look out for that. Some takeaways about the last show that I did featuring the discussion of relationships, because we all in them, we learn from them, we get hurt from them, be happy, and it's good to be able to see an example, right? And I'm going to talk about faith, and when God shows us the ultimate gift, right? And that's marriage. And in that sense of showing how the happiness is embedded in that. And I believe the Dixons were talking about their journey, what have you. And I had mentioned that those are vows that y'all are talking about. And vows are commitment. Because both of them were saying we make a commitment to one another. And I wish I had the audio so you can hear it for themselves. But that's pretty much what they were saying during that part of the discussion. And that's what I picked up on. So the takeaways, I'm just going to go through a few that I remember of that live show that we did last month. The number one, and I did talked about this. I think I said it and we was all like, yeah, definitely. Number one, don't settle. You want the best in life. You want someone that's going to honor you. You want someone that's going to give you respect. And sometimes when us that are very nurturing and nice and kind and forgiving, and definitely listen to some of my podcast shows, my Surviving Your Journey to Success, I talk about forgiveness, my take on that. But nonetheless, and we sometimes get, the shades are down, realizing that that's not really what's up to my standard. So don't settle. And the Dixons agreed with that. Number two, keep the faith. Definitely agree with that. Okay. When you have faith, you believe in what you do not see, and what you've been through that's been a struggle. It's okay. That's the time. I'm going to lead into something else that they said. And that is number three. The Dixon said, marry yourself. And to hone on that, when you marry yourself, you learn about what makes you tick, what makes you grow, what makes you laugh, what makes you cry. And you just get really in tune of who you are. The Egyptians were right. Know thyself. The ancient Egyptians was right. Know thyself. And when you do, you end up marrying yourself in a way that's in a loving and balanced way. And therefore you can love someone else. Because if you can't love yourself, you can't love no one else. So that's very, very good. Number four, you will know. I think Miss Dixon kept saying that. You just will know. You will know who is the right one for you in a loving, caring relationship. Okay. The next one, number five, be in balance. I can't remember the full phrase that they were saying, but in the essence, that's what they was relating to. You be in balance. I have to agree with that, because if you take and take and take for a relationship, and I talk about this on my Surviving Your Journey to Success, you're not going anywhere, because the person keep taking and taking and taking, and you can't live like that. And I'm going to go back to my metaphor like I like to do. If you look at nature, it's a giving force, right? It constantly gives us the water that we need, the air that we need to breathe, the sun, right? It's a giving force. And when the other person is just taking and taking, it's not a balance. So that leads to unhappiness. But if you be in balance, you get the joyfulness of a loving marriage, a loving commitment. All right. The next one is be prayerful. Now, I agree with that. I mean, to infinity. Because when you have a prayerful relationship, when both are prayerful, it means you're both are mindful on the same. You hear me? The same path forward. I have to say that again. Be prayerful. Because that equals you being mindful. Because one person can't do it. Two people have to do it. Right? And when both are doing it, and that's what they kept when they was sharing their journey, when they first met, and then dating, what have you, and then led to marriage. All of it came back around in the circle. They was both prayerful, and to me, prayerful. If I add to that, respectful, right? And all of that is trust. And with that, you're mindful on the same path that God intended to. So yes to that. Ooh, y'all need to write that down. Whoever listening, who need to hear that, because that's gonna push out or remove what's no longer serving you. If you're trying to get on that path towards marriage, towards a loving commitment, once you identify if the other person is that or not, do you know your answer? I knew this was going to be a message for somebody, right? And then the next one is communication. I really wanted that to be number 1. It's number 7, but nonetheless, communication is key. And I think communication is like water, because without it, it gets cloudy. You get confused. All that other stuff. But when you're communicating and you're understanding, and if you go back to what was said before and have the faith to understand, then you will have the balance. You will get your meant to be. You will get to your true love. You will get to the person that was you intended to be with, and you will have a peace of mind. And I always preach about mental peace. Okay? If you're not meant to peace, that's not living the best. And you want to live the best life. Everything can't be perfect, but darn it, can't we just aim for it? Can't we just, be mindful and prayerful for it? Yes. The next one is dating is a journey. Now, I added in the sense to just say it's towards the long road to manifest, right? And it starts with God, by having God first. And both of them honed on that too. They said, being loyal to the Most High. If the Most High ain't in it, that's going to be some problems. But when you put the Most High in it, started from the beginning, and you make a commitment to the Most High. Peaches and cream over here. Okay, y'all? Peaches and cream. Okay? Whatever dessert you want to put on the table, or whatever. Glass, whatever. The bottom line is that balance you back to what a relationship is. A relationship is a balancing scale. Right? And in the middle is the faith of God. And when you do that, now I know I'm going there, and usually on my shows I say whatever faith that you believe in, but we just got to break it down and just got to keep on moving. At the end of the day, it has to be that middle force. And when it is, you can be able to see the balance, not only just yourself, but the other person, and the other person see you. Bam! That's the message, right? And from there, we grow forward. So the last thing I want to say is start with God and keep God in it to serve the Most High. So really that's like a complete round circle. And that's what was coming up in the conversation that we had, that live show. Again, please support them. They're on Instagram. They have a wonderful business. You'll be shopping all day. And go to easyshopsonline.com. Again, they are on Instagram and Facebook. They're a wonderful family, beautiful children, beautiful family, wonderful message of being motivated and encouraged and laugh and the giving back and forth. So I do highly recommend to connect with them, and it gives you hope of humanity. It gives you hope of the initial plan in the beginning of time, that even though you don't see it, right? Even though there are some mishaps or what have you, and some delays, and it was the wrong valet or the wrong park, but you get on the path that it was meant to be, define you're meant to be, right? So you'd have the peace of mind because you deserve it, right? We all deserve it. And the Dixons was so gracious enough to share their journey, their experience, and their choices, and of life. And it's just a beautiful thing to hear and to see, and we should see more of that. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to be releasing my next podcast going into April as I roll out and get prepared for my podcast shows, the season to end in May, when I take my summer break to return back for my next season in podcasting, which will be in September. But for right now, I'm going to sign off. I really do appreciate your support, and I wish nothing but the best. All right. Talk to you soon.